them as a fait accompli. That would have been the right thing to do. Instead, he cleverly used these mandates as a wedge issue, and unfortunately for him, he managed to just eke out another minority government. But in the process, he ended up dividing the country. He ended up demonizing and marginalizing millions of Canadians who were unable or unwilling, for a range of different reasons, to get the vaccine.
Yeah, well, and a huge part of the reason they were unable or unwilling to get the vaccine was because they didn't trust the Trudeau government at all. And so there were all sorts of people, and some of them, I suppose, were conspiratorial in their inferences, but many weren't, who thought there's something fishy going on here. I don't trust this a bit. And those were all the people who were demonized as, radical anti-vaxxers. We're going to turn to Carl Harrison, who's taken and Sean Rickard, who've taken a lawsuit out against the Canadian government for reasons related to the story that Rupa has been telling. And so, Carl, perhaps you can start by filling us in on what you're doing and why.
Yeah, thanks. We're taking. We've made an application for a judicial declaration, essentially in the federal court, in relation to the Canadian government's discriminatory mandates for requiring a vaccine as a precursor to traveling. And we filed that in December after a lot of thought and consideration over previous months separately. I came to this differently to Sean. I came to this throughout the summer months of 2021. In April of 2021, I was listening to the Prime Minister of Canada saying that there would be a vaccine for any Canadian that wanted one. And by the time we got to the fall, I had watching a man on television as the Prime Minister of Canada talking about 5 to 7 million of his fellow Canadians as people who were racists and misogynists and people who were taking up space, people who might not be tolerated, which is language. I'm coming up 60 years old. I've not really heard that kind of language from a Prime Minister of many Western democracies until recently, and I certainly wouldn't have expected it from a Canadian Prime Minister, but there we go. And so during the summer of 2021, the Prime Minister decided he was going to dissolve Parliament, go for an election and try to get re-elected in the fall. And clearly he had, as you said earlier, identified with his advisors, whoever they are, a wedge issue, which based around people's health choices. And he thought he could polarize the population, and he thought he could use it to his advantage.
Why did you feel so strongly about this to take such dramatic action? Because obviously most Canadians, even within that 5 to 7 million number that you described, grumbled about this but didn't do what you did. Why did you identify this as so important, and why were you willing to put yourself at substantial risk financially and in terms of your time to do something about it?
It's not a difficult question to answer. There are three. When you see this kind of policy implemented by governments, there are three things you can primarily do. You can accept it, you can fight it, or you can run away. And it's a blend of those actions. And I think if you're able to fight these things, if there's something you can do, then you should. It's good citizenship. I'm a recent immigrant to Canada. I'm a Canadian citizen and a UK citizen, and I brought my family here in 2009, and I fell in love with Canada in the 1990s. And as a recent immigrant from Europe, I feel it's a part of citizenship to stand up against these kind of issues. So running away wasn't an option for us. Accepting it wasn't an option. So how can we fight it? We're not in politics. The opposition parties throughout the summer of 2021 were weak. Erin O'Toole, I think, just demonstrated an extraordinary lack of vision and weakness throughout the summer of 2021 by seemingly going along with Trudeau rather than actually opposing him. Whilst he was opposing him, his polling was doing well. And as soon as he started to go along with him, he plummeted and subsequently lost. So I thought, what can I do? I started to think about a legal action. And at that point, I was came across Sean, who was, I saw him on Twitter, you know, the sort of global town hall, and I saw Sean there with saying some of the same things that I was thinking and starting the process of raising money. And I reached out to Sean. I thought I could contribute from my own legal experience in the past. I thought that was something I could usefully add, and I thought I could usefully add funding. You know, I've been in business a long time, so I have some resource, and I thought that's something else I can do. So I couldn't politically oppose at that point. We could protest, we can go and do direct action, and we can protest with other people, and Canadians should always protest where things are wrong. And coming from the UK, we're used to protest. I mean, it's, as you know, I mean, you've been there a lot, I think, to the UK, Jordan, and protest in the UK is seen as, you know, something that definitely has to be done. So taking part in that, something we can do, and legal action, something we can do. I came together with Sean in the fall 2021, and I'll let Sean pick up there because he can explain how we came to work with Sam. I think it's probably helpful.
Sure. Sean, over to you.
Yeah, hi, and thank you again for having us all on and helping us get this story out. As you said, the Canadian legacy media have essentially ignored this story completely, which is mind-boggling and also deeply disturbing. But I guess this whole process kind of came about for me, as Carl said, in September, when I heard this sort of disgusting, divisive rhetoric coming out of our Prime Minister's mouth when he was campaigning. And the further we went along, and the more this whole threat of banning the dirty unvaccinated or those who refuse to be injected from getting on a plane or a train and even leaving the country just absolutely terrified me. I mean, to me, he resembled a sort of a narcissistic, sociopathic tyrant, and it really troubled me. And I felt that I had to do something about it. I like to travel. I feel it's my right to travel. I'm a free man. And for somebody to come along and take that away with no recourse was deeply disturbing to me. So I immediately started putting the feelers out there to various people. I spoke to a couple of politicians. Most of them were useless. And eventually I spoke with somebody, and I was given Sam's name. And